The time has finally come to put this engine back in my 8.6 and get it running again. I have no idea what's going to happen by the end of this episode, but hopefully we'll have this engine with the transmission and everything else at least in the 8.6, and if we're lucky, we might get a first start. I've got at least 3 things that I need to do first before we can actually get this engine and transmission back in the car. First, I just need to finish bolting up the engine. I've got my oil pan and valve cover to put back on, as well as a few tiny little things that I'll show you. Then we got to get the transmission just slightly repaired. And then we got to just couple everything together, put the engine and transmission as one, and make sure we get the clutch details correctly. I got my flywheel back from the machinist, so everything's ready to go. I have all the parts I need. I just need to start putting everything together. Then once all that's done, I'll need to hook up my ECU, finish a little bit of wiring stuff, and then hopefully we might get a first start out of this thing. I've done a few things since the last time this was on camera. I got this guy on. It's really simple to install, but I had to go find an O-ring. Luckily, I found something at the hardware store that fit. I also put my, distributor slash cam position sensor on. I'm pretty sure it's all lined up because of that mark right there. Otherwise, I have no idea because this is adjustable and I don't know what the correct position is for it. Also, I did find these bolts at the machinist. Luckily, he had pulled them out of the parts washer for me, so it was nice that he saved those because otherwise I would have had to use these random ass stainless bolts that I had. First of all, I need to install my new billet crank hub, but before I can do that, I need to make some cuts on my timing cover, which this goes over because right now this newer, bigger boss here doesn't fit on it right now. I highly doubt this is going to work, but that's not going to stop me from trying. I'm gonna hope that stays still. I got all the way through at some points. I'm a little afraid. Oh, it already came out anyways. Well, there goes my center. So, my hub fits decently well in here. It'll fit, but I don't know how well centered this is since you can see there's a whole lip here. I guess next thing to do is clean this off and put it in the engine and see how it all holds up. Alright, well, I got the new crank hub on. It went on just fine. I turned it over twice and I don't hear any rubbing against this plate here. And now it's time to put the valve cover on. Now, this valve cover has already been through a parts cleaner. There's a lot of RTV that's kind of deep in here that I can't really get out. I don't think it'll be much of an issue, so I'm just going to go ahead and install my new gasket. I hope I don't have these upside down. 32mm socket works really well for that apparently. And then I'm pretty sure these guys are gonna go in on top like that. And before I put this on, I'm pretty sure it is advised to put a little bit of black silicone RTV in the little corners here on the outer cam caps. Places where there's sharp edges that the gasket can't necessarily form to as easily. I know I tightened down all my cam caps. So one of my little rubber caps just fell off and I'm so glad it did because there was this little O-ring stuck to the bottom of it that isn't on any of my other caps. I was in a big box of seals for this engine. Don't think that was supposed to be on there. Now we just put these on and we should be good. All good, as far as I can tell. And with that, I should be able to put this guy neatly in place. Moving along, I think it's time to do something simple. I've got my VVTi solenoid here. I already cleaned this out with brake cleaner. I don't have a replacement for the O-ring that's in here, so I'm going to hope that that seals. That was very easy to push in. It was tough to get out, so I hope the O-ring is still good. Your pro tip for cleaning things out if you don't have a parts cleaner, just spray brake cleaner through oil passages. Look to see if any gunk comes out. If it does, then you know you probably want to keep cleaning it out. If nothing comes out, but just a little bit of oil, then you should be good. Okay, so just put a little bit of sealant on the end of that. Should be good. It's 27mm, just like this guy. I don't even know if this is temperature or pressure, if I'm being honest. So now it's time to put this plate on before I put my coil and plugs on. There's a lot of these kinds of kits available that make some sort of plate to adapt to the right height for coil and plugs, since this was originally a distributor-based engine. And then it's time to put all my coil and plugs in, so spark plugs first and then coils. I had them together like this so I know which one goes where, and they were all numbered already as well. And when you go on all 4 cylinders, it looks something like this. And now with everything else in place, it's time to put on the oil pan. This is probably going to be sketchy to turn over, but I got no other option. There we go. I want to make sure that these conrod caps do not contact my windage tray. Well, that seems to be perfectly fine. So just take everything back off and then we'll do the RTV and put everything on for real. All right, before I go too far with this, I've got some Valvoline VR1 that I'm just gonna try to aim into my oil pump like that. Okay, if it overflows, it's just going into the rest of the engine anyways. And I'm just gonna turn the engine over so that it really primes. 21 doesn't seem like that many bolts until you have to actually put all of them down, and it takes a second. Anyways, that's all done and should be good to go. It is day 2 of this, and now I'm on to the transmission. I'm hoping that today is the day that I put all this together and put it in the car, but to be honest, it is a very windy day out. That said, I'm just going to get working on the transmission here and see how far I get on that. Also, I did buy a clutch master cylinder. I'm replacing this because the clutch never felt good in this car and it's a pretty simple system of components, so I figured just replace everything while I'm in there. I'm doing the clutch anyway, so I might as well. The clutch we took out didn't look so great, especially the flywheel and pressure plate, and that's all been resurfaced, and I have a new pressure plate, new clutch kit. It probably will solve most of my problems just by doing that, but just in case, I bought a new slave cylinder and I bought a new master cylinder. I thought this would be a quick while you're in there type deal since the engine's out of there. I can see the master cylinder a lot easier, but the reality is that this master cylinder is a lot easier to replace. Anytime the engine is in there, that's not really the obstacle. The hard part is getting under the dash and getting to one of the bolts underneath. Probably not going to do this today, but if I ever need it, it's still here. Okay, I should clarify, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have these instructions here. This is the bulk of my instructions. There are some other instructions over there that are mostly just telling me how to take the transmission out of the car or how to access these bolts. Oh wow, that is extremely loose. I did not loosen these up yet. Okay, is this just like, oh yeah, that just all comes off. Okay, but I think okay, that's how it comes apart. Now I know. I think the majority of what I'm supposed to replace is in here, which means I was probably supposed to get that clip off first. So that one's just going to replace that. That part's pretty easy. So I guess all that I'm replacing is this guy that was down in here. And I'm just replacing it with rubber washer here and these 2 half shells here that have a little chamfer / curve on the inside of them. I guess that's pretty simple. I'm going to take some time to clean this out though because this is pretty filthy. Well, it's not perfect, but it's a lot better. Just a bit of brake clean, hot water, and a lot of wiping with rags. I got the old bushing off just by hammering on it on my desk. For the new one, they say to push down really hard on the floor since it's a really stiff Delrin bushing, but I just hammered it on with a mallet, soft mallet, and it went on just fine with enough force. I don't know if my shifter is just some cheap aftermarket one or if it's OEM Toyota, but there is the katakana if anyone else can make sense of all of it. And just put these half shell pieces in here like that. I'm gonna put some grease in there before I put all this together. Well, I think that's better than before. That feels pretty good. I'm just gonna say that's good enough. When I said I was replacing everything in the clutch system, I really mean everything. I've got a new dust boot for my fork here, a new fork, new carrier, new everything. Holy shit, that was tough to get off. More OEM Toyota parts. You know what? Fine, since the previous owner did it, I'll put a little bit of blue Loctite on my new one. Alright, well, I got all that together. This moves nice and easily now. I've got a new dust boot down here. Got my retaining clips and everything is all greased up with anti-seize or assembly lube or whatever needs to go in here, so should be good to go on all this. So now I have two options. Either A, I could get all this up on my engine hoist, put the engine and transmission together while everything is up in the air, and then try to snake the whole thing down into the car. Option B, and this is how I got it out, put the transmission in first, just bolt it all up where it's supposed to go on its own mounts, and then come in with the engine, lower that straight down and into the transmission. I'm going to choose option B, and that's because this shifter here is pretty tall and sticks up, so you can't just slide it back super easily, at least not with the amount of ground clearance that I have with quick jacks in my own garage. So with that, it's time to put the transmission in, and after that, we'll start hoisting the engine in. Alright, with the sun going down, I definitely don't have enough time to put the engine in today, but I do have a tire over there, and I'm just going to get this off of my engine stand and onto that tire. Plus, this gets everything set up for tomorrow when I am going to have enough daylight to do everything I need to do. And there we go. Okay, we're good. The nice thing is that I can balance this to be more level. That feels a little less sketchy now that it's close to the floor. For those of you wondering what the plan is, there really isn't one. I'm kind of just trying to find a place for this for now. This is a perfect use case for one of my old pillows. Easy does it. Easy does it. All right, we're all the way down. There we go. All right, day free of putting all this together. It is Thanksgiving and I have about 4 hours of daylight. And for those of you who think I have plenty of space in my garage, I beg to differ. The only reason this even closes is because the little laser sensors down there are slightly above this frame here. Oh, there's a lot of dead things under here. It's almost as if this car has been in here for 6 months or something. Now, I'll admit, I did not put a lot of thought into this part of the plan. And by plan, I mean lack thereof entirely. That's gonna be heavy. Ooh. I have no idea how I'm getting this transmission up onto this transmission jack. I just kind of assumed this was gonna be a lot lighter than it is. And I don't know why I assumed that, but I did. Well, the bell housing end is lighter, so I'm wondering if I can get it started like this. So maybe if I come in from the other end and do that the heavy end first. That shift knob is pretty tall, I'm not gonna lie. Should I just take that off and maybe put it back on afterwards? Is that on? Oh, it's barely on. Kind of got it. Oh shit. That's looking like it's pretty close to where it's supposed to be. Let's see if I can get that cross member in place. Not too far off, actually. Nearly perfect. We just need to move over a little. Came with this little adapter plate. Not really sure if this is for the blacktop swap or what, but it looks homemade. All right, I think we're in. Oh, luckily the front of this thing is not too heavy. All right, after I tilted the transmission up a little bit, I was able to get to all four of these pretty easily, and now this is all in. I took the transmission out originally by just narrowly kind of angling this in just the right ways to roll the transmission out from underneath the car. It would have been so much easier if I had just taken this out in the first place. And there she is, pretty much in place. Probably just gonna sit a little higher than that once everything's good, but we got an engine to get in here first, so let's get working on that. So, as per usual, I don't have the proper tool for doing something. I have the whole slide hammer kit, but I don't have anything small enough to fit in here to get this pilot bearing out, so I'm cobbling together whatever I can to make this work. It's almost there. Oh, thank God. Oh, this is gonna be a little harder than I thought. Oh, that tool does not remotely fit in that pilot bearing. Okay. So I've definitely got a little bit of a problem in that this hole is not lined up perfectly because my clutch alignment tool is a lot bigger than the inside of my pilot bearing, which has me worried about whether or not this is the right clutch kit or not, but there's really not a whole lot I can do. That said, this is gonna have to just be kind of guess and check. Let's hope it stays in place when I do this. Yeah, that's as close as I can get it by eyeballing it. All right, time to begin the great lifting, but not before I get to take this guy off. This is a little sketchy, but this is my way of trying to turn it around. And there we go. Looks like we're just barely in. That's a good sign. Aha. Whew. Okay. We're probably going to be bringing it back up, but I wanted to see where it's going to sit and what my brackets and everything are, because I don't even remember what my engine mounts are supposed to be like. So here's what happened. My camera cut out after only about 15 minutes into that engine hoist lowering maneuver, and unfortunately I didn't really get any of it on camera. My dad came out and helped, but luckily I was able to get most of it done by myself, so it wasn't too hard of an install. It took about an hour to get everything to a safe place where I could leave it without the engine hoist needing to hold it up anymore. But now I've got everything kind of fully installed, but let me show you all the work I did off camera and also show you all the problems on Facebook going forward. So probably the most obvious thing I did was I got all my belts installed here, although this was far from a painless process. Long story short, this is my new billet crank hub, and here's my original one. First of all, the gap between these two pulleys is a little bit wider than what the new one is. Secondly, as you can tell, the front pulley is smaller in diameter than the rear pulley. The new one, on the other hand, is the same both ways, and that meant that I had to find a different size belt, which meant that I had to play guess and check with the part store until I finally found a size that fit, which is different from the original belt here. Also, I completely forgot about this, but the reason my oil pressure gauge was never hooked up previously is because it's kind of buried underneath this power steering bracket, so I don't really know how I'm going to get to that. There is a little bit of access through here, but I don't know if it'll be enough for a spade connector to get in there. Then for my water pump pulley, this water pump is a little different than the one that came out of here. The actual location for this pulley wasn't correct either. I had to 3D print a little spacer that's in here that pushes it outwards a little bit more. Otherwise, this pulley here is just rubbing directly against its cover. I don't know if it's perfect necessarily, but it's pretty close, and I definitely can't get much closer in there because there's not a whole lot of clearance between the timing cover and the pulley. Similarly for my power steering pulley, it's all a little bit not perfectly aligned, so I don't know if this belt is just going to walk off over time or get worn quickly because it's not perfectly aligned, but hopefully it's not enough of an issue that it'll walk off or wear. So I installed things like AC and power steering and my alternator, but nothing's really hooked up yet. Anything that has electrical connectors is not hooked up. I don't even have basic ground straps hooked up. None of the wiring has been done. I haven't done any of the ECU work yet. The transmission is fully bolted up. The annoying part of that is that there's these kind of brackets here that go to the bottom of the transmission and the side of the engine block. They're probably there to provide extra rigidity. The one on the starter motor side isn't hard to get to with the starter out, but the one on the opposite side here is very difficult to get to if you have power steering. It makes it really hard to get to those two bolts that are down there. My transmission is fully mounted to the engine. It's fully bolted down. Same thing with all these mounts. Got my drive shaft in as well. I also replaced the speedometer gear on the end of the cable. I'm hoping this crank pulley won't be an issue in general. If it is a problem, we can always just switch back to the original one. I'm hoping that my trigger wheel kit will still fit with this. Speaking of which, let's talk about all the problems I have yet to solve with this motor. For one, there's still more work to do with making the correct wiring for the ECU. I need to find an ignition power source. Then there's this guy, my header. My biggest problem here is that this O2 sensor does not fit with the new one. The new one is a very standard looking O2 sensor, not like the old crappy one, and it has this nice bung that I'm supposed to weld on, and I don't have a welder. I thought about making an adapter plate for this, but then I started looking at it a little bit more carefully and I realized that you're not supposed to put an O2 sensor on one of these single header tubes. You're supposed to put it down here after the collector, because otherwise it's only sensing what's coming out of one cylinder. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I don't really know what I'm talking about with regard to all the ECU tuning yet. I'm still learning. But long story short, that shouldn't be there. It should be down here. And I gotta find somebody who can weld it in. I know like maybe 2 friends that could do it and neither of them owe me anything, so I might end up taking it to a shop and just paying to get it done. There's still the whole trigger wheel kit to install, which I'm told this bracket might need to be shaved down or ground a little bit if you have power steering, which I most definitely do. So we'll have to see how that fits or doesn't fit. I did get some cheap radiator hoses off Amazon. I couldn't really seem to find OEM part numbers for this or anyone selling OEM Toyota radiator hoses. I guess everybody buys silicone aftermarket hoses. I don't even know if these fit yet or not, but I'm gonna hope they do. Since I'm being cheap, I still have my original radiator here in the back with, well, one of the hoses. I'm gonna buy a filter for my garden hose and just try to run water through this. I don't think there is any gunk in here, but just in case there is, I'm gonna try to flush it all out and get rid of all that old coolant in there. Oh, also a point I forgot to make about this. I said I made a spacer that goes in here. It's a 3D printed spacer, so I have no idea if it's going to hold up to the engine temperatures or not. Generally, PLA is not supposed to hold up to engine bay temperatures. 3D printed plastics don't typically do well in high heat applications, so I don't really know if that's going to work or not, and if it doesn't, I don't really have a good solution to it. I still have to figure out the deal with my cooling. I mean, I know this one's in and out, or vice versa, but I don't really know which one's which for my heater circuit or which direction things are supposed to go in. I'm also still trying to figure out an adapter setup for my idle air control valve. That does not fit at all, or at least the plug wouldn't if I put it on there. So I'm making a bracket that's going to space it down here, but I don't know what it's going to mean for where this hose sits or where the connector sits, or really anything to do with this. And then there's this whole mess of BS and wiring that I don't really want to touch, but I'm probably going to have to regardless. It's mostly just headlights and probably fog lights. I'm guessing this is fog light wiring in here, but I don't really know what this is or what it's for. Oh, I also reinstalled all this stuff. I don't really know why I ever took my hood latch off in the first place, but I put it back. I also got a lot of my interior back together. My shifter and center console is all there again, although I don't have a steering wheel right now. Well, I lied. I do have a steering wheel. It just doesn't really look that good. In fact, this is all sticky and I don't really want to touch it. This had a whole bunch of crappy wrap on it. So either I just have to put some wrap on it again for now, take it to someone else to get reupholstered, or I can honestly just unbolt this one because they're the same 6-bolt pattern, so I could probably just put it in there for now and call it good. But then I won't have a steering wheel for my track car, so I don't know. Okay, I know at the beginning of the video I hinted at getting a first start by the end of this episode, but it's just not going to happen. There's plenty more to be done in here. I don't even have a starter in here anyways. That said, if you do want to know when part 2 for this comes out, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. That helps me out tremendously and it lets me know that more people like you want to watch more videos like this. If you want to support the channel directly, there's also a link to my Patreon in the description below. Also, while you're down there, consider leaving a comment. I read all the comments and I love hearing everything you guys have to say. As always, thank you so much for watching, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one.